Welcome back to Biblical Insights, the Gospel and the Land of the Bible. I'm Lauren Domigan.
And I'm Philip Church. And in this episode, we're going to try and answer the question why it is that so many Christians seem to support the state of Israel in the light of what is going on in Gaza in the present day.
I'm really excited to hear what we've got to say about this.
Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Baptist NZ Podcast Network. This is Biblical Insights, the Gospel and the Land of the Bible.
Oh, hi, Lauren. It's been a little while since we were here again.
Yes, it totally has.
Yeah, we've had some feedback from a variety of people who seem to be enjoying what we've done. And but something's come out of this that has been bugging me for a little while. And what I want to talk about tonight, or what we want to talk about tonight, is why do Christians support Israel so strongly?
Yeah, it's a good question.
So recently, both of us saw on Facebook a post that claimed that the formation of the State of Israel in 1948 was fulfillment of prophecy. Contained a selective reading of history, not intentionally selective, I'm sure, but the usual narrative that Christians usually tell, and it concluded like this. I acknowledge the suffering of all civilians, Jewish, Arab or otherwise. I pray for peace and for the protection of all children, and that's good. But I stand with Israel, the only liberal democracy in the region, restored in fulfillment of biblical prophecy, and chosen by covenant-keeping God.
There's so much to unpack there.
Well, there's a lot to unpack. Do you know about the Latin expression called post hoc non ergo propter hoc?
You probably need to tell me what that means. I don't speak much Latin.
Oh, I don't speak much Latin. It means after this, not necessarily because of this.
Ah, okay.
So Israel is definitely sitting in their land, in the ancient land promised to Abraham, but is it in fulfillment of biblical prophecy? That's the interesting question. This particular sentence we saw on Facebook said they're there in fulfillment of biblical prophecy, and I would ask the question, well, post hoc, after this, but not necessarily because of this. It got us thinking. We've seen the extreme suffering of children in Gaza as reported daily in the news media. I saw today that people reckon there may be 400,000 people may have been killed. Whole families killed, and no one there to report their death.
Well, yeah, and I think there's lots of issues with internet outage as well. So then, how do you possibly report accurate numbers? And from what I've seen, it looks so tragic.
Yeah,
it's hard to watch, to be honest.
Oh, it's hard. Yeah, I find it difficult to watch. Why do some Christians who know that God is a God of justice and compassion think it's okay?
Or maybe they don't think that the suffering is good, but they think that it still can be justified. Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe it can be justified. Yeah, maybe people think it can be justified. But I've seen on Facebook that I ignore now. You know, these people are animals and so on.
You've seen people say these people are animals?
Yeah, I've seen people say these people. I did reply. I said, these are people made in the image of God. Some of them are Christian brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really difficult. And some Christians think it's okay. And I'm concerned about that because God is a God of justice and compassion. And we talked about Nikki Haley in our earlier podcasts.
I remember this, yeah.
Nikki Haley writing on a bomb headed for Lebanon, I think. Finish them. America, heart, Israel, always. And she was a presidential candidate before she withdrew and endorsed Donald Trump. And then I came across this picture from this is Ted Cruz, a congressman, or senator, I think they call him. I'm not sure the difference.
Yeah, he is Senator Ted Cruz, yeah.
I came into Congress 13 years ago with the stated intention of being the largest defender of Israel in the United States. And he said, as a Christian growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. I want to be on the blessing side of things. Biblically, we are commanded to support Israel.
He makes it so black and white.
Well, it's a bit black and white, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then Mike Johnson, Speaker of the US House of Representatives, do you know what he said?
What did he say?
The West Bank is an integral part of Israel.
Interesting.
Yeah. So he's the Speaker of the House. He's actually, as we speak, he's actually in that part of the world.
Oh, my goodness.
And then Mike Huckabee.
We talked about him.
Yeah, we talked about. By the way, Mike Johnson and Mike Huckabee are both Baptist pastors. You might be interested to know.
Oh my goodness!
And Donald Trump appointed Mike Huckabee as the U.S. ambassador to Israel. He said, "There is no such thing as a West Bank. It's Judea and Samaria. There is no such thing as a settlement. They're communities. I have another name for them. I call them colonies. They're communities. They're neighbourhoods. They're cities. There is no such thing as an occupation."
Wow.
Yeah. So he's the U.S. ambassador to Israel.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, if that's the government policy that they would choose someone like that with those views.
Yeah. And then this one popped up on my Facebook today. It's come from Munda Isaac, who's a Palestinian pastor, about Mike Johnson's visit. This was dated 4th of August, so it's a couple of days ago now. Turned up on my Facebook today. And Mike Johnson visited a West Bank settlement of Ariel. And while there, he reportedly said to the settlers, the mountains of Judea and Samaria were promised to the Jewish people. And these settlers, well, yeah. There are two kinds of settlers I discovered when I was visiting over there. There are some ordinary settlers who actually don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Remember we talked about those roads that Palestinians can go on and Israelis have to go on.
Yeah, I remember that.
And the motorways that the Israelis can drive on, and the other old roads that the Palestinians drive on. And some of these settlers don't really know what's going on. They live in these settlements because there's motorways connecting them to Jerusalem. They think they're in a suburb of Jerusalem.
Right.
And they're not sure. But then they are what they call ideological settlers. And these are the ones who walk around with their guns and harass the Palestinians. And the settlements are illegal in international law. But international law doesn't matter to these sort of people, to Mike Johnson. The settlers, he visited an illegal settlement in the West Bank, and he told the people the mountains of Judea and Samaria were promised to the Jewish people.
Right.
You belong here.
Yeah, these are your mountains.
Yeah. I heard a settler say in the Jewish settlement just south of Bethlehem, who said, "This really feels like our land." He talking with a New York accent. "This really feels like our land."
And so he'd moved from New York there.
From New York to there.
Because he was like, "This is my land."
Yeah. And then he said, "If everybody was like us, there would be peace."
Okay, that is not nice. Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like that, no. Okay, so where did all this come from?
Yeah.
So the answer is tied up with certain beliefs about the second coming, the sequence of a rapture, a tribulation, and a millennium. And in the millennium, Jesus will rule the world from the restored throne of David in Jerusalem.
This is what they believe.
That's what they believe.
Right.
And the formation of the State of Israel in 1948 is preparation for this. So this is about restore to the people in fulfillment of biblical prophecy.
Allegedly.
Yeah. And so the formation of the State of Israel is part of the whole sequence beginning to bring the end times in.
So when they see the formation of the State of Israel, they're like, this is the first sign that the end times are upon us.
The rapture's nearly here.
Right, yeah.
So...
and we have said in one of our last episodes that, there, as you said, to quote you, there ain't going to be a rapture.
That's right, there ain't going to be a rapture. I said that to my brother one day. He wasn't sure what I meant. So I read recently a Palestinian Christian pastor, Christian pastor, I think he was. He says, "I think it's very strange for my Lord Jesus to return. I have to get out of my country."
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So the Jews have to be there and the Arabs have to go to make room for the revival or the renewal of the formation of the State of Israel, and God's people restored to the land, and then Jesus can come back, and then we can have the millennium, and Jesus will rule the world from David's throne in Jerusalem.
Yeah, okay.
Where did it come from? I adapted a quote from another source, an influential New Testament scholar who's an expert on Jewish culture and politics in the first century.
Mm.
And he was describing how many of us misunderstand different kinds of Jewish leaders we encounter in the New Testament, like the scribes and the Pharisees and the Sadducees and so on. I took his statement and I adapted it a little bit for what we're talking about. This entire picture of rapture, tribulation and millennium is an invention.
Mm.
Pieced together partially from hints scattered throughout the Old and New Testaments, partially crafted from brand new cloth woven from threads spun in the 19th century.
Yeah, I think it summarizes it.
Yeah. This thing was invented.
Yeah, creation. Yeah.
In the 19th century. So, in this episode, we're going to explore some of these hints and how they've been woven together.
Yeah, I think this is kind of important, especially when, like you say, you do see this stuff on social media where people say, well, you know, those who bless Israel will be blessed and those who curse Israel will be cursed, and therefore we have to stand with the modern-day state of Israel. That it's interesting when you see that. It's kind of good to unpack the root of that, and so you can maybe come to that with a bit of insight and knowing kind of what's going on and thinking through what might be causing that kind of thought pattern to emerge, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, this is what I think we're doing. What these people are doing are drawing a direct line from Abraham, Isaac and Jacob and the Jewish people, and Israel, and ultimately the remnant, the Jewish people returned from exile, and suddenly we keep going along here and there's a big gap that we don't know about, and suddenly Israel comes back again, but it's the same people from the very beginning. So
they see it as a straight line from Moses all the way to the modern day state of Israel.
So definitely Israel was a people of God in the Old Testament.
Yes.
But are the citizens of the state of Israel in the New Testament now, are they the people of God?
So we talked about this in a past episode where if you were from the nation of Israel in the Bible, you were an Israelite, whereas now if you hold a passport for the country of Israel today, the state of Israel, you're an Israeli.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but people still draw a straight line and consider Israelis to be the same as Israelites.
Yeah.
So they think the promises made to the Israelites then can be interpreted literally and applied to the Israeli people in the state of today. Israel. Yeah. Yeah? Is that right?
Right. So I heard a Palestinian theologian say, my country is occupied by a Western power. And I'd been walking around and encountered a few IDF soldiers and they all had American accents.
Interesting.
A country is occupied by a Western power. The problem is it took a religious name and it's confused everybody.
If they'd called it any other name, if when they'd formed the state of Israel, they'd called it David's land instead of Israel, maybe people wouldn't have been like this.
Yeah, or
I don't know.
We could think up a name.
Yeah. We
could call it Levantine. So Levant. I don't know how you pronounce that word. I think it's French originally. Levant or Levant is at that end of the Mediterranean Sea that takes Lebanon and Israel and Palestine and Jordan. And Syria, that's the Levant.
So if they'd called it that, maybe people wouldn't have been so up in arms to defend it because they wouldn't have seen it as the same as the original Israel. I suppose we can only... People would have found a way, I think.
I don't think they would have called it Canaan.
No, true. Yeah. Too much baggage.
Yep.
So
that's what's going on. So let's talk. I want to talk about the millennium for a start.
Yeah.
So you can find a millennium in the Bible. We have to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And building up to it, remember we talked about Zionism in episode 5. We talked about restorationism.
Yeah, I remember this.
And political Zionism and Theodore Herzl and Nathan Birnbaum.
Yeah, the original people who came up with it.
Yeah. And there's another one I just want to mention, Eliezer ben Yehuda. Eliezer ben Yehuda means son of a Jew. Eliezer ben Yehuda moved to Israel in the late 19th century and set about resurrecting the Hebrew language.
Resurrecting?
The Hebrew language hadn't been spoken for 2,000 years.
Really? People didn't speak it in the synagogues or whatever?
They didn't speak it. Well, they read the Hebrew Bible and they read the Talmud and the Midrash, which are Jewish commentaries on the Torah. But it wasn't an everyday language that you speak in the supermarket.
It was like a church language.
A church language, if you like.
So if you were like practicing practicing Jew, you might
Yeah.
speak it to read the Torah or something,
Yeah.
but otherwise it wasn't like a widely spoken outside in a secular context.
It
Yeah,
wasn't every day. It's a bit like Arabic. So Arabic, you have what they call classical Arabic,
right.
which the Quran is written in and nobody understands. And then you have street Arabic that everyone understands.
Is it like reading Shakespearean English?
Yeah, the same.
Sure. So it's like reviving Shakespearean English so that we can all talk
Yeah.
and I
And
suppose
he
not
revived
quite
it
the
from-
same. but-
Revived it from 2,000 years.
Okay. Yep.
And he had to invent a whole lot of words
Yeah.
that didn't appear in the Bible.
Like typewriter.
Yeah,
Well,
typewriters.
sure,
Probably, yeah.
yeah.
There would have been there were probably typewriters in the late 19th century. There weren't aeroplanes and supermarkets and computers,
Yeah.
and of course they've got words for those now because that
Languages evolve. That's quite normal.
Yeah, of course it is, yeah.
Even Maori, they have those. Yeah.
Yep. So Eliezer ben Yehuda was another political Zionist who revived the language. He did an amazing job. And then I'll talk about Christian Zionism. So remember Restorationism. We talked about Lord Shaftesbury, who put a full-page advertisement in the Times
Yes.
in 1840.
I remember this.
Remember
Yeah.
this?
He was like he needed a homeland for
Yeah.
them, right?
Yeah. And in his advertisement, he said the restoration, and he spelled it Restaurat, because English spelling hadn't been sorted out yet. The restoration of the Jewish people to the land of Palestine, dictated by a particular conjunction of affairs in the East and others striking signs of the times, reverts to the original covenant which secures a land to the descendants of Abraham.
Right.
So that's what we call covenantal Christian Zionism.
Yeah.
God's people are going to come back to their land
Because of the covenant.
because of the covenant. Yeah.
Right. We've talked about this before because in the end our view was that Jesus coming is the fulfillment of the covenant, and that is why we
Yeah.
don't need a temple in Jerusalem to worship.
Got it, yeah.
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 So that's why we already debunked this in a way. But
You
yeah,
debunked
just,
it,
just a reminder for maybe
Yeah.
for listeners who only listened.
Yeah. So
to it once.
Shaftesbury,
Yeah.
he came up with that in the middle of the 19th century. Restorationism was all over the place in Britain, particularly in the British Parliament.
Interesting.
And it led up to the Balfour Declaration that we talked about.
Yeah, that's correct.
So you have covenantal Christian Zionism, and then we have what we call dispensational Christian Zionism.
That's the stuff that inspired the Left Behind books that gave me nightmares.
Yeah, you got it, yeah.
Yep.
Darby, Schofield, Reference Bible,
Yep.
Hal Lindsey, Left Behind. And I've got to add on there Moody Bible Institute and Dallas Theological Seminary, two flagships of this kind of stuff in the North American theological scene.
Right.
So that's dispensational Christian Zionism. But both these kinds of Zionism argue the prophetic promises of blessing for Israel need to be fulfilled literally.
Literally, the land of Israel
Yeah,
must
yeah.
belong to the descendants of Abraham.
Yeah. But you could remember who the descendants of Abraham are in the New Testament, can you not?
Yep. Father Abraham had many sons. Many sons had Father Abraham. I believe it goes, I am one of them and so are you.
I'm one of them and so are you.
Because of Jesus.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe we learnt this in Sunday school.
Yeah, we did. Well,
That's
I never
right.
went to Sunday school.
True. Okay. Well, I did. So you missed out.
Exclusive Brethren didn't have Sunday schools.
Sorry for your loss.
But I've-
Honestly, the best time.
But I've sung some of those. I've sung those songs.
Yeah.
My kids did when they were in Sunday school.
But yeah, we know from
Yeah,
from Father
yeah.
Abraham's sons is you and me because of Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
debunked. But yeah,
Yeah, because everyone who has faith.
that's right.
So as it happens, ethnicity doesn't matter anymore.
No, and this is literally one of the big things that's
Yeah.
revealed to the
Yeah.
apostles, right? Is you can eat all the animals and
Oh,
nothing
yeah,
is
that too,
unclean.
yeah.
Even it's specifically written
Yeah,
down.
yeah. So, but this dispensation, well, both kinds of Christian Zionism, they argue that the prophetic promises of blessing need to be fulfilled literally, and Zionism is established to actually make that happen.
Yes. Give those people that specific
Yeah.
piece of land,
Yeah.
even if someone else is already there.
Yeah, and since it doesn't appear, they don't appear to be fulfilled yet.
No.
They will be fulfilled in the millennium when Jesus rules the world from the throne of David in Jerusalem.
So is the idea that Jesus would literally be on the throne for 1,000 years as the king of the world?
Yeah, that's quite a long time, isn't it?
Well, I mean, that's a lot of. I mean, assuming people still aren't going to live more than 100 years, that's a like. I don't even know my great grandparents. I only know my great grandparents. That's a lot of generations of people having. I'm not having to, but getting to live under Jesus's rule. You kind of. I wonder what the world would look like. I suppose.
In 100 years, you and I will be all forgotten. No one will remember us.
Yeah.
Ever thought of that?
That's a deep thought for the listener. Sorry if this has triggered something for you.
Yeah. So, yes, But yeah, well, actually stop and think about it. Jesus sitting on the throne of David for 1,000 years. That's a long time to be sitting on one throne.
Yeah, you're right.
So I want to talk about the millennium, because the millennium is important. It appears in one text in the Bible.
Does it only appear in one text?
We talk about things coming from texts all over the place.
Yes, that's true.
But there's one text that talks about the millennium.
Okay, well, get ready. Let's talk about the
We're
millennium.
going to read it. We'll read it. Okay, so this is Revelation 20, verses 1 to 3. And listeners might want to get their Bible and check that we're doing it right. Then I saw an angel coming down from heaven, holding in his hand the key to the bottomless pit and a great chain. I'm reading from the New Revised Standard Version, updated edition, as it happens. He seized the dragon, that ancient serpent who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years and threw him into the pit and locked and sealed it over him, so that he would deceive the nations no more until the 1,000 years were ended. After that, he must be let out for a little while. So this is what it says. It's a vision.
Yep.
I saw an angel. And remember, with visions, do you have visions?
No, I'm not really that type. I have dreams.
I don't have visions, but sometimes your dreams don't make sense.
No.
Well, they sort of make sense when you're having them.
Or like they kind of make sense. Like it's like you're in your family home, except for it is in the zoo. Do you know what I mean? Like you've kind of blended two together. Anyway, yeah.
So we shouldn't expect visions to make 100% sense.
Well, we don't. I wouldn't interpret my dreams as being literal, even if they felt symbolic. Yeah. Anyway.
There's an angel sent by God, because God lives in heaven, so the angel was coming down from heaven. Mm-hmm. And he's got a key to the bottomless pit. The NIV translates that the abyss. So it's a bit complicated, because the Greek word is ebuson, which is the abyss, and the etymology is bottomless pit.
Right.
I'm not quite sure whether bottomless pit would be the best place, but anyway, it's where the devil and his angels belong.
Right, but I mean, it doesn't say it locks up just him, though, right?
Just him, yeah.
But what about his demons and?
Well, I'm not sure about them.
Okay.
He takes hold of Satan, throws him into the pit, and locks him in the pit for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Later, he will be let out again. See, and after that, he must be let out for a little while.
See, to me, I would hope that he just stayed in the pit. I don't know why they have to let him out, but anyway.
Yeah. It makes little sense literally. We need to see it as figurative language.
Yeah, I suppose. I can kind of see that.
Yeah.
But I can also see how someone would see this and read it completely literally.
Yeah.
If that's how they were taught to read the Bible, or how they've been told it was literal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the keys about dispensational hermeneutics. Remember we talked about hermeneutics, science and art of reading the scriptures.
Yeah. How much imagination to apply, as it were.
That's right. Dispensational hermeneutics has to read the scriptures literally. They call it norm. Now, you're a lawyer, so you'd know about this. Words and grammar is really important, aren't they?
We call it the black letter of the law. So when you read things super literally, it's called the black letter of the law.
So don't you have to read them super literally?
No, because we have laws in New Zealand around how interpretation works.
Right.
And the way you look at this is you consider the context and the words.
Yeah.
So, for example, if it is illegal, this is an example, if it is illegal to, I don't know if this is real, but let's just think about it. If it's illegal to ride a bicycle when you're drunk and because you don't want people to get hurt, the law might not think of riding a skateboard. Or, in the case of a case in Dunedin, a wheelie bin.
I remember that one.
Yeah, so if you put yourself in a wheelie bin and you wheel yourself down the road.
Down the steepest hill in New Zealand.
Yep, very stupidly. Is that similar to riding a bike intoxicated? Right. And so this is an example of if you were a black letter of the law person, you would say, the law never said that you can't, be intoxicated and ride a wheelie bin or a scooter or a hovercraft or whatever new items we come up with. It just says bike or vehicle, and so you kind of have to apply a little bit of imagination to consider what might come under that definition. So I suppose there's like two ways, and there's people who have different approaches. Some people believe you should be very literal, and some people believe you can apply things, and that's why we have litigation in New Zealand. Some people think the law covers them, and some people think it doesn't. Right. So that's why you argue these things. I don't know, maybe that's too lawyery, but I can kind of see from my background when someone looks at this, if they are let's use my example, black letter of the law person who wants to look at this very exactly what it says is what it says, they would not interpret that as a symbolic vision. Yeah. But if someone maybe wants to apply imagination and is trying to interpret it in the context of all the other interesting parts of Revelation, they might be able to see this as a revelation through, some context and imagination.
Yeah, so meaning is more than the sum of the words.
Exactly.
We're glad I got that out.
Yeah. After my small law lecture for those playing along at home.
Yeah. Look, people, budding lawyers, listen up.
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to read from Revelation 20, verse 4 to 6. Then I saw thrones, and those seated on them were given authority to judge. I also saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for their testimony to Jesus and for the word of God. They had not worshipped the beast or its image, and had not received its brand on their forehead or their hands. They came to life and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. The rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were ended. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy are those who share in the first resurrection. Over these, the second death has no power, but they will be priests of God and of Christ, and they will reign with him 1,000 years.
Good. So what's happening here? The vision
So many
continues.
things are happening.
So many things, yeah.
Yeah.
The vision continues.
Then I
He saw the first bit. First thing he saw the angel coming down and locking up the devil.
Yep.
And then he saw some thrones.
Yep.
And some unidentified people were sitting on the thrones as judges.
And they didn't have the mark of the beast, which we've all been frightened about from books.
That's right, we have.
Yeah.
Some faithful followers of Jesus who have died for their faith in Jesus come to life and reign with Christ for 1,000 years. See?
Yeah.
The souls of those who have been beheaded for their testimony to Jesus, for the word of God, they had not worshipped the beast. They came to life and reigned for 1,000 years. So it's just martyrs who've come to life and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years.
All the martyrs, or just those during the time of the beast where you had the option of having the mark of the beast?
Well, I'll tell you what. Revelation was written in the end of the 1st century to 7 churches
Yep.
in present-day Turkey. And the 7 churches in present-day Turkey were suffering persecution from the Roman Empire. What dispensational readers of the Bible will tell you is that from Revelation 4:1 to the end of Revelation 19 is all about the tribulation. And we're going to say a bit later on that tribulation ain't going to happen.
Wait, hold on. Did you say tribulation's not going to happen?
Yeah, well, the tribulation, well, we'll come to this in a minute, but the tribulation is the entire history of Christianity when faithful believers are persecuted. And so we know they're persecuted believers right now.
Yeah, that's true, all over the world.
Yeah. So Revelation 4:1 to the end of chapter 19, and this is the beginning of chapter 20, it's not about the tribulation, it's about living faithfully in an oppressive, persecuting empire.
Because the receivers and readers of that letter were living in those circumstances and watching their brethren or whatever die.
Yeah.
Okay.
And encourage them to say, well, actually, these will come to life.
So that is an encouragement for those people who are going through probably what is the worst persecution that they could possibly imagine at the time, to know that it's not all over.
Yeah. It has to be relevant for the 7 churches for whom it was written.
Yeah.
Not for some churches, some believers 2,000 years later.
So I'm trying to imagine with my applied imagination, just the right amount, to the person who opens this letter and reads it to the persecuted believers in the 1st century. They would not be thinking, oh, this is for the 21st or 22nd century.
They would not.
They would think, this is for us, and it's symbolic, because maybe they were lots of symbolic writing. And they would think, oh, if we are beheaded, we're resurrected.
Yeah. And remember what's happened. John gets taken to heaven in Revelation 4, verse 1.
Yes.
And he sees what's going on in heaven.
Yes.
All the things he sees is what's going on in heaven. And what says is Jesus is enthroned in heaven. He has overcome the enemy.
Yes.
Believers are on the winning side.
Yes.
So when you're suffering persecution, going through persecution, remember, actually, God is in control. It's
already been won. It's not like it's going to be won in 1,000 years' time or something.
And so maybe we'll come to this in a minute, maybe the binding of Satan was bound when Jesus died and rose again.
But then I don't think it would be 1,000 years literally. It would just mean like a long time.
It's interesting, isn't it? We're thinking about that too. We'll think about that in a minute. The rest of the dead don't come to life until the end of the 1,000 years. The promise to the faithful martyrs is repeated with a blessing for them.
So you reckon sorry, this may be a silly question, but in the meantime, the 1,000 years of the Christians who weren't martyrs, they just hang out in heaven, I guess?
Yeah, well, that's pretty interesting too. Yeah.
Kind of, don't know if I feel like after you've died and seen heaven, you don't really, it feels like a punishment to have to come back to earth, right? Because heaven would be perfect compared to a very broken world. Yeah. Kind of feels like a rough deal for the martyrs. You've got to be a martyr and you've got to come back and reign with Christ while everyone else continues to hang out in heaven.
But you see, where are you reigning?
Heaven?
We'll come to this, yeah.
Okay.
It's my turn. When the 1,000 years have ended, Satan will be released from prison and will come out to deceive the nations at the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, in order to gather them for battle. They are as numerous as the sand of the sea. They marched up over the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints and the beloved city. And fire came down from heaven and consumed them. And the devil who had deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire and sulphur, where the beast and the false prophet were. They'll be tormented day and night forever and ever.
Yeah, this kind of stuff does give you nightmares as kids. Point that out.
Yeah. So the vision continues.
Yep.
After 1,000 years, Satan's released to deceive the nations and gather them for battle. They attack the camp of the saints and the beloved city. They are destroyed by fire from heaven. The cosmic enemies of God are thrown into the lake of fire for eternal torment. And then I want to tell you about Gog and Magog.
Yeah, that's such a very specific detail.
Yeah. So if you go to the Royal Arcade in Melbourne, downtown Melbourne, you walk through the Royal Arcade and you'll see a clock there with these, and it's 130 years old or something, 170 maybe, and you see these two strange figures standing each side of the clock, and underneath it says Gog and Magog.
People can Google this. Melbourne, Gog, Magog.
Yeah.
I don't know, just Google that.
And what happens is every hour they come out and whack that. They've got a bell. He's got a bell next to him.
That's very strange.
Every hour he comes out and whacks a bell.
It's like a scary cuckoo clock.
Yeah, so this is Gog and Magog. Well, that's not the ones that John was talking about in Revelation.
I really hope he wasn't talking about this one.
In Ezekiel 38 and 39, Gog is a mysterious feature from Magog, comes to make war against God at the end of time and who will be defeated. John is saying, remember what Ezekiel said about Gog and Magog? God's enemies will be defeated.
Okay.
So here's some questions to think about.
Okay.
It's not a question. Satan's bound up and locked for 1,000 years.
In the vision, yep.
In the vision. Christian martyrs who have been publicly humiliated will be vindicated and reign with Christ during that time. Doesn't say where.
No.
The rest of the believers are not yet resurrected. I'm talking about physical resurrection. So
you're still in heaven. It's not like you're waiting around.
There's an interesting question.
Yeah.
As what happens when you die? I tend to think that Paul says, I don't want to stay around too long. I'm not sure. We had this in church on Sunday, didn't we? I'm not sure whether it's good for me to live and stay helping you guys or to be with Christ, which is much better.
Yeah.
So Paul was saying, well, if I die, I won't be here to help you out, but it's much better to be with Christ. So when you're dead, I think you're with Christ. Some people suggest, well, maybe, if you go to sleep at night and wake up in the morning, you have no awareness of the passing of time.
Wait. Hold on. This is going to be very controversial for the listeners. When you die, you go to heaven. That's the whole...
Yeah. Well, yeah, you do, but you see, some people debate about this, and I agree with you.
Right. Okay. We're not cancelling heaven. No. Just don't write us any emails about this just yet. Yeah. Hold on.
When I die, I'm with Christ, which is much better.
Yes.
Says Paul in Philippians.
Yeah, agreed.
But some people will say, well, actually, if you go to sleep at night, you wake up in the morning, you have no awareness of the passage of time.
Yeah, that's true.
In fact, I wake up sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm thinking, sure, it must be 6 by now.
Like when you're jet lagged and you fall asleep and you wake up and you don't know if it's daytime or nighttime. Yeah.
So they say, well, perhaps when you die, you're dead. And then you're with Christ when you're resurrected and you haven't been aware
at the end of the millennia and all that?
At the end of, when Jesus returns.
Oh, what, and then you get to be alive again? Yeah.
Some people say that. I don't think I agree with it.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like But I don't know what I'm basing this in. Like, I can't decide if I'm basing this on anything or just what I've been told. I was always told that people who have almost died or like a little bit died and come back have said they've gone to heaven.
Yeah. So
Like,
I think
don't know,
that's right.
maybe this is...
We're getting off the topic, but actually,
way off.
But it's interesting because I've said the rest of the believers are not yet resurrected. They're still alive.
Yeah.
But we're talking about physical bodies.
Yeah.
I mean, when Jesus came back, he had this body called a spiritual body.
Yeah.
So it could go through doors and things.
Yeah.
And we will probably have bodies like that in the new heaven and earth.
Yeah.
The new heaven and earth hasn't begun yet. So in that sense, I'm saying the rest of the believers are not yet resurrected.
They're not resurrected into the new
They're not
heaven.
resurrected.
They're probably just hanging out with God in heaven.
And so people imagine just hanging out, you know.
I don't know. I was always told we'd have jobs in heaven because it's good for us to do things, and God is creative and does things.
You could be playing a harp on a cloud, but
No, I don't want to do that.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get back to the topic.
Yeah.
Satan will be led out and will gather the nations of the world to make war against the camp of the saints in the beloved city. These nations will be destroyed by God, and the forces of evil will finally be overthrown.
Right.
But
And is that the Battle of Armageddon? When they talk about that,
this is what they say, but actually, I'm not sure what's going to happen.
Because you reckon it's not a literal...
Yeah. So think about this for a minute.
Yeah.
Where and how deep is the bottomless pit? See, I don't know where this bottomless pit is.
Like a wormhole.
Like a worm. Well, the abyss. It's where Satan and the demons belong.
Right.
Yeah, and it's called a bottomless pit or an abyss. Can Satan really be locked up with a key and a chain?
Probably not like one we would buy from like Bunnings or something. It'd probably have to be very spiritual and strong and powerful.
Some kind of a key and a chain.
Yeah.
How long is 1,000 years?
That's interesting because I always thought, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've always thought in the Bible when they say and you will do this for your generation and your generation in 1,000 years or 1,000 generations, it's not literal. It means like lots and lots.
I'd say it like this. You know, God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills.
I've not heard that before.
There's a psalm that says, "Well, you want to bring me all these offerings?" So, you know, I own the cattle on 1,000 hills.
What he means by this is not 999 plus 1 equals 1,000, because he means like all of the hills. Yeah.
So nobody thinks to ask, well, who owns the cattle on all the other hills?
Yeah, the other remaining hills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So God owns all the cattle.
So 1,000 could just mean could mean like lots and lots
Just
and lots.
a long, long time.
Yeah. Ages.
Ages.
Yeah.
Who is reigning where? We're reigning with Christ, but under
like a parliament? Like that's the thing. It's like modern day government.
Yeah, and well, under the dispensational scheme, we're in the Houses of Parliament in Jerusalem, in the Knesset.
Okay.
Where is the beloved city in the camp of the saints?
I reckon there's some people who think the beloved city is absolutely Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Revelation doesn't mention physical Jerusalem. The only Jerusalem that turns up in Revelation
is the new heaven.
Is the new Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Yeah. The new Jerusalem coming down from God. The new Jerusalem is a community of the people of God.
Yeah.
So the enemies come and surround the people of God, and ultimately will be destroyed. I've said as we're dealing with figurative language, such language ought not to be taken literally. It means something, but meaning is more than the sum of the words. That's the black letter thing. Meaning is more than the sum of the words, and because the text is so obscure, over the centuries the church has never completely agreed on how to understand it.
But that's a very convenient thing about text that's a little bit vague and a little bit symbolic, is that it can kind of mean what you want it to mean.
Well, you
you really wanted to say it meant something.
Yeah, you could.
And I think people do.
Yeah, but you got to stop. You got to.
Doesn't mean it's right though, but it means it can be weaponized.
Yeah. So throughout Christian history, there have been three ways of understanding this text about the millennium.
Yeah.
So this is, as we said before, this is the only text in the Bible that says there's a millennium.
Yeah.
Classical premillennialism views 1,000 years as a literal 1,000-year period after the second coming, which occurs pre the millennium, so before. Classical premillennialism.
But millennium means 1,000. So what, 1,000 years before 1,000 years?
So Jesus returns before the 1,000 years.
Oh, right. So he comes back and then 1,000 years occurs. Yeah.
It was most common view in the early church. It does take the number 1,000 literally, which is problematic when all the other numbers in Revelation are symbolic.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but it's still quite common.
Right.
And I keep asking myself, why would there be an interim period like this?
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Then you have postmillennialism.
Right.
Postmillennialism
Right.
suggests that the second coming is after the millennium,
Yeah.
which is not a literal 1,000 years. As the gospel spreads throughout the world and triumphs, the world will continue to prove until millennial conditions eventuate. This was common in the 19th and early 20th century up to the First World War, that smashed the myth of ongoing improvement.
Because I thought the world was going to get more and more peaceful and more good. And then, of course, we've had a couple of world wars and people are like, well, we're not really heading in the right direction for the world to be in an improved condition for Jesus to want to come to.
But however, it's come back again.
Is it?
Among what we call Reconstructionists or Theonomists in the last quarter of the 20th century.
Is that right?
These are people who believe, for example, that all the laws in the Pentateuch still have to be applied today. And they got to reconstruct things and actually build millennial conditions.
Do they know what Jesus said about all the laws at the time when he was back here?
I haven't asked them.
Yeah, it looks like maybe they've missed that part.
Yeah.
We should probably send them one of those little Gideon Bibles.
Oh, yeah. and then, most recently, in the Christian nationalism of the American right, seeking to bring in the kingdom of God. That's ultimately it's post-millennial. We've got to make it all better. All these Christians surrounding Donald Trump. Christian nationalists surrounding Donald Trump.
And they think they're doing the right thing. They think they're bringing a Christ-like perspective to everybody's lives. But
And so we don't want to get into American politics. I was going to say.
Well, we're in New Zealand. We're
in New Zealand. But those the Christian supporters of Donald Trump are ultimately coming from a post-millennial perspective.
Yes, correct.
And they're going to bring in the kingdom of God.
Yeah, by being a righteous Christian nation.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Right. Yeah, you got it.
Maybe that they believe if they're so Christian that Jesus will change their mind and abandon Israel and choose America as his favoured nation.
Well, they've always been a favoured nation. Yeah. And then we call amillennialism, or the Americans call it amillennialism.
Right.
Somewhat of a misnomer, as the A prefix suggests no millennium.
No, like none.
No, none. It's more accurate to say that those who subscribe to an amillennial perspective argue there will be no future 1,000-year reign of Christ on earth.
And maybe they interpret it more symbolically as like the 1,000 years in the vision was reference to a long period in a vision about some kind of thing. Sure.
The 1,000 years symbolic. They read it symbolically rather than literally. The number 1,000 refers to a long and indeterminate period between the exaltation of Christ and his return.
Yeah, to me that makes the most sense because I've always, I don't know, when I say always, when I've read Revelation over the course of my life, I've always thought it was unusual that there would be 1,000 years of peace and then we'd undo it.
Yeah.
It just seems very messy.
It does seem messy.
Yeah.
So I find myself being an amillennialist.
Yeah.
I think that has the most support. But I've said here, all these alternatives have their problems, and perhaps it's for this reason the church has never been able to agree on how eschatological these last days events will unfold. All continue to be held by different theologians and biblical scholars, and they do.
Well, I think that at the end of the day, we don't know when Christ is coming home, and that's what Jesus said. And if people put too much thought into trying to predict the future accurately, they're bound to look the fool. Yeah. So
there we are. So those are the three options. But there is now a fourth option.
Oh, yeah?
The fourth option we call dispensational premillennialism.
Now, this is ringing some bells.
Is it? Oh, good. Ding. Dispensationalism rests on the view that God's dealings with humans have proceeded through a well-defined time periods, i.e. dispensations, in each of which God reveals a particular purpose to be accomplished in that period to which people respond in faith or unbelief.
Right.
So here's a quote from the New Dictionary of Theology, published in 2000. I modified it just a little bit. Dispensationalists differ in the identification of the dispensations, but it's fairly general to distinguish those of innocency, Adam before the fall, conscience, Adam to Noah, promise, Abraham to Moses, Mosaic law, Moses to Christ, grace, Pentecost to the rapture, and the millennium.
Right.
Sharp distinction is drawn between Israel and the church. It's crucial. Systematization of modern dispensational theology owes much to J.N. Darby and his followers and the Schofield Reference Bible.
Oh, yep.
So, and that's a quote from the New Dictionary of theology, and the article was written by Sinclair B. Ferguson, whom I've never heard of, and James I. Packer, who was one of my teachers at Regent College a long time ago. So Jim Packer was a fine man. And so that's their definition of dispensational premillennialism.
So dispensations means from them, like how you'd almost, if you break it down, like how you dispense something in pieces. So you've got like the innocency, conscience, promise, Mosaic law, grace, and then the millennium after. So they're kind of broken down the entire history of everything into these blocks of time. That's what dispensationalism means as far as when you break it down into those sections. Yeah.
So I've got another. Well, here's a quote from Donald Atkinson, who's a Canadian historian, and he says this. He says it was invented in 1834.
Okay.
This scheme was that Jesus would return and would take his people heavenwards, the rapture. Thereafter, for those left behind, there would be a period of writhing pain on earth, the tribulation, and then Jesus would reappear to clean up the mess and to reign for 1,000 years with his saints and with the holy remnant of the Jewish people who now were restored to sovereignty over their promised land. That's the millennium.
And when he says their promised land here, he's talking about modern day Israel.
Modern day Israel, yeah. So he's describing how the scheme. And then I've got something going back to 1854.
Yep.
So this is a document called the Present Testimony. The original witness
revived.
The
original witness revived.
The church's portion and the hope of the kingdom. And then it's got some words in Hebrew from Zechariah that say, not by might nor by power, but my spirit. And then it lists the dispensations, and it got 6 of them: Adamic, fallen, Noahic, Abrahamic, Mosaic, then the gospel, the millennium.
We're in the gospel right now, right?
And then the millennium, and then the eternal.
Yeah.
So there's an arrow from the church's position, that's the gospel.
Yep.
The hope of the kingdom, that's the millennium.
Yep.
So the kingdom of God for these people is pushed off to the millennium.
Yep. Okay.
So that comes from Craig W. Bain's dispensational structure from 1854. So notice this time there's no rapture or tribulation.
That's not really in there.
No, it hadn't really been developed yet. But that really came to fruition with Schofield.
It really goes to show how recent that ideology is.
Yeah, 1854. It's not that long ago.
I actually saw something on TikTok recently. I think I was looking into, I don't know, why am I looking on TikTok? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But I don't know. This is the medium, the media. This is the what I was scrolling on at the time. But one guy had been asked, why do you believe in the rapture if it's not in the Bible? And how it's all made up very recently. And his response was, just because it's made up recently doesn't mean it's not true. God can reveal things at all times. So you shouldn't discredit something just because it's new.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I get, but it's still made up.
Yeah, well, it's funny that nobody thought of it for 1,800 years.
You're very convenient, isn't it?
Yeah. So I've got some more things here.
Yep.
So, a description of dispensational premillennialism then. This is how it works. There's a rigid distinction between Israel and the church. They haven't really answered the question, who are the people of God? Which is the quote we had at the very beginning of this episode.
Yeah.
These are God's people restored to their land.
Yeah.
Well, are they the people of God? What is called normal literal interpretation is paramount. What we call the code model of interpretation. A writer encodes his thoughts in words, and the reader has to understand the code but understand the code and interpret it.
Yeah.
But in reality, reading is much more complicated than that.
Yeah.
We talked about reading with the imagination, didn't we?
Yeah.
And think about the world within the text, above the text, behind the text, and in front of the text.
Yeah.
It works like this. This is how it goes. The Old Testament prophets foretold a glorious future for Israel.
Yeah.
Since that hasn't happened yet, it must happen in the millennium.
Where
these prophets knew about and anticipated. These prophets knew about the millennium.
And they're talking about the biblical prophets that we've read.
Yeah.
So,
Amos and people.
Right. So they're saying they were predicting a glorious future. The glorious future hasn't come for Israel yet, so it must be in the future in the millennium.
Yeah, it must be happening, and that'll be the millennium. You can read about it in Amos 9, 11, 15. What the prophets didn't know about is what they call the dispensation of grace, the church age between Pentecost and the rapture. They only knew about Israel and didn't know about the church.
Yeah, true.
So in this scheme, you see,
So yeah, they're predicting the future of Israel thriving, and because Israel obviously, like, there was a whole bunch of tragedy that happened, they think that thriving of Israel is in the future, but they also didn't know about the present-day church and Jesus and all that stuff. Yeah.
The prophets didn't know about that.
No, they didn't.
But so what will happen is God will take the church away, that's the rapture, and start dealing with Israel again.
That's what they think.
There were 7 years of great tribulation, culminating in the Battle of Armageddon.
Where does the 7 years come from?
Well, we'll come to that. Daniel's 70th week.
Oh, right. Never
And
mind.
all the nations will gather against Israel.
See, that's a piece of scripture that's used all the time. Anytime people want to criticize Israel, they say, see, it's biblical. All the nations will gather against Israel.
That's right.
So no matter what you say on Facebook, you're anti-Semitic.
Yep.
Yeah.
God will destroy them all, along with 2/3 of the Jews, and then the millennium will begin. This is how the scheme works.
Yeah, allegedly.
Lots of people think that what's going on in Gaza now is leading up to that. I've had several people say to me that the rapture is very near. We have to support Israel because very soon Jesus will return and set up his kingdom in Jerusalem, and that can't happen if there's a Palestinian state.
Yeah, because they think that God is limited by the presence of Palestinians.
And
this makes no sense.
Yep, this is why Christians today support Israel. They are hastening the rapture and the second coming.
Or unknowingly doing so because they don't know all the things behind it. All they know is that what they've been told is that those who bless Israel will be blessed and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And to them, they think, well, I've read about Israel in the Bible. I believe in the Bible. So therefore, Israel's right.
Yep,
right.
Correct.
Okay. So there's people who want to hasten the rapture and people who think that this needs to have, that Israel needs to occupy the land so that Jesus can come back. And then there's people who just believe that it belongs to Israel because they've read about Israel in the Bible.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a spectrum of views, but it still
Sure
doesn't
is.
make it ideal, is it?
No. So, where does all this come from?
So many different places.
Yeah.
So on the next episode, we'll be thinking about where all these ideas stem from and and maybe like start to unpack the sources for this ideology.
Yep, sounds good. I think that's probably enough for one episode. The whole dispensational premillennial scheme. So let's look in the next episode at where's it all come from. Nice to see you again, Lauren.
Nice to see you, Phil. See you on the next episode.
See you on the next episode. Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to Biblical Insights, the Gospel and the Land of the Bible. We hope you gained a deeper understanding of God's Word today. If you have questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at biblicalinsightspodcast@gmail.com. A huge thank you to our amazing producer, Mike Crudge, and thank you to the Baptist NZ Podcast Network for supporting us. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please take a moment to review and rate us on your favorite podcast platform. Your 5-star rating and thoughtful reviews help us reach more people with biblical insights. Join us next time on Biblical Insights, the Gospel and the Land of the Bible, as we continue to explore the Bible and its relevance to our everyday lives.